To take control and responsibility for my own life instead of turning to an outside source is one step towards the divine. The divine is within us all and all around us. We are made of the divine, and the divine speaks through us. The next step is learning to love humanity, even though we see all the faults and wrongs of life. Being able to forgive, have empathy, compassion, and being non-reactive will also bring us closer to the divine. But we can't just emulate the godlike aspects. Instead, we must learn all about ourselves and do what we think is right. We then create and develop our own mythologies. This instills trust, faith, and intuition within ourselves, leading us to the true divinity that we seek, not just some other path that someone claims is right for us. For we are each our own cosmos, our own ruler of our universe, the God of ourselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Ren Chrism, and today I want to talk to you about how to connect to your higher self. And with this, I had done a lot of research about different things, and when it came to like egregores, tulpas, servitors, and apotheosis, and I wanted to kind of combine all that together and create a ritual that helps you to connect to your higher self, but also to better connect with your lower self and understand both of them better and how they combine together to create you as a whole person. So the lower self is the one that protects you from harm any way possible. So it could even be something you might consider wrong or bad. So the higher self is the one who connects to the divine, and this one is someone who can forgive anything and can love unconditionally. So with apotheosis, it is the idea that you can become a deity by doing certain things. So you may perform deeds that are tied to the well-being of others, or maybe you have exceptional virtues, or it's granted by the gods by performing different trials or sacrifices or having spiritual purity. Another way you can think of it as a metaphor, and it is self-realization. And this is when you reach your highest potential, and there are several ways that you can go about this. It could be through self-discipline, intellectual growth, moral integrity, emotional maturity, or having a legacy with lasting impact. And that can either be by cultural influence or artistic mastery. And by artistry, it could be really anything. It could be like mechanical, science, technology. It doesn't have to be the stereotypical art, like poems and actual like paintings and stuff like that. Just anything that you could consider like a craft and honing your skill. So you want to embody virtues of wisdom, justice, and compassion is the overall idea of connecting to your higher self. Some different ways that you can embody self-realization is through reflection. And so you want to gain insight into emotional patterns and thought processes. What are your values? What is your purpose? You want to know who you are. You can't just go and become your higher self if you don't know who you are. So you need to learn what you like, dislike, what rubs you the wrong way, like what is your values. The second thing, and everyone's going to recommend this for anything really, it is meditation. The third thing is you want to recognize your natural talents and passions. This can lead you to your true self and what you love and embodying more of who you are. But you also want to know your weaknesses and accept your imperfections and improve them. You also want to align your actions with your values. You don't want to be doing something that's completely opposite to what your values are. You need to figure out what those are so then you can work on your whole life being surrounded by those values. So your work, your family life, your friends, all of that. And then you also want to pursue meaningful goals. You don't just want to do goals that society thinks are great. You want something that matters to you. So if you don't want to lose 10 pounds because it's New Year's Eve and that's what everyone's goal is, don't do it. If you want to read 100 books in a year, read 100 books. Get as specific as you want. It's all about you and your desires. The next thing is developing boundaries. This is so important. You will learn more about yourself when you learn to say no. And over the last few years, this has been something I've worked on tremendously. It's still hard, but I feel like I've grown so much as a person because I've said no. The next one is you always want to just keep learning. Whenever you stop, you become very stagnant and stale and you get really set in your ways. And the best thing to do is just to keep going and expanding your knowledge. You'll never, ever learn everything that this world has to offer you. There's just way too much. The next one is challenge your comfort zones, and this is also a really difficult one, especially when it comes to like certain fears. So like maybe spiders, or fear of heights, or maybe fear of touch, and maybe even just afraid to try a new workout class or taking that martial arts program that you've been wanting to do. All of these things can be so scary, and a lot of it can be rooted in the fear of failure. But again, we want to have a growth mindset so we can keep going and get to the goals that we want to do. The things that are going to hinder us from becoming our higher self is not embracing mistakes, embracing those fears. And the other thing that can hinder us is procrastination. The next thing is you want to let go of external validation. This can lead you in so many different directions if you just choose to do things that people tell you to do. You want to do things because you want them. You want to achieve that career. You want that certificate. You want that college degree, or maybe it's just as simple as you want a family. Whatever you want, do it. Don't do things because other people expect you to do so. The next one is you want to let go of desires, labels, and outcomes. This one can be hard because a lot of people I think nowadays really want to feel included, and they want that label. They want to fit in a little group and feel like they're welcomed and they're in a family, and there's nothing wrong with that, but separating yourself into one thing and making your whole personality that is going to hinder you from growing. You want to embrace everything about yourself, all the different depths of your personality. And with outcomes, I feel like this is kind of one of those things that can lead to disappointment. If you're not focused on an outcome, you won't care about not reaching it, or you won't get so dejected if something goes wrong. If you let go of those things and just go with the flow, you'll feel so much better and not constantly worried or feel like you have all this burden on your shoulders. Things will happen the way they are supposed to. And if it doesn't go right the first time, you can always try again. The next thing is selfless service. So doing things out of the kindness of your heart and not because you have to or because it makes you look good to other people. Next is accepting what is, accepting reality how it is, whether you just have what you have and you can't get other material items that others may have, or you have this specific job, any of those things. You just have to accept reality and be in the present moment. You just have to be content with what you have. And yes, you can work on achieving other things, but you just need to be accepting of where you are and just kind of forget about everything else. And things will come when it is possible and when you are ready. Last one is surrendering control. And this is also a very difficult one. Most people don't want to let go. They want to think about the future, or they want to think about the past, and they just don't want to be present and going with the flow and being content with where you are. So you can only control yourself and your reactions and how you feel. So don't keep worrying about other things. Things will work out. Plan, figure it out, but then let it go. It'll work out, or maybe it won't, but you'll figure it out when that happens. But be present here and now. So now that we got through the basics of self-realization and what the higher self and the lower self are, the next thing is we want to learn more about who we are as an individual, what you consider your higher self to be, what characteristics they have, and the same goes for your lower self. So my overall idea for this is being able to pull those characteristics out and almost create this godlike being, or a tulpa, or an egregore, or just like an alternative persona that you can see and then embody. Just like what you'll do for your higher self, you'll do that for your lower self. The other option with the lower self is you can take all those characteristics and imagine pulling it out of you and then either banishing it or giving it a specific purpose that betters you as an individual. So maybe you want that specific personality characteristics to come out only when specific circumstances happen. And so there is a specific trigger and you allow it to come forward and be your protector. There's nothing wrong with having both of these aspects. It's what makes us human and makes us be able to move about on this plane safely and makes us feel whole. So whatever you want to do and how you want to perceive this, it's all up to you, but these are just some of my suggestions that you can take. So these are some questions to ask yourself to start forming these thought patterns in your mind. So first one is, how do you view your higher and lower selves? How do you act and react to situations? So how would each of those aspects of yourself, how would you view them coming forward during specific scenarios? What do you do when you can't immediately have what you want? How do you deal with losing the ones you love? How do you feel when people make fun of you? How do you respond when others are unjust or immoral? How do you deal with something bigger or better than you are? How would you help society? What would you sacrifice for humanity? What attributes do you portray to protect yourself and or your ego? All right. So after you think about those questions and write down your responses, the next step is we're taking the idea of creating a tulpa and basically taking that information and putting it into the creation of a tulpa. So you want to give your higher and lower self a name. You want to write out how do they talk, what do they sound like, what their personality is, what they look like, what they act like, where do they live, what do they feel like, what do they smell like, what is their assigned purpose, what powers or skill set they may have, what is their gender, what do they feed on. This is something you'll want to do whenever you call them into action to basically continue having a relationship with this tulpa or this persona of yourself. So this could be like incense, maybe a specific act of service, maybe it feeds on your happiness when there's a job well done. The next thing is you'd want to create an activation code to summon it. So this could be words, a body position, maybe signing their name in cursive with a specific object in your hand. The next one is where would they live? So this could be a dollhouse, a bottle, they could live in your mind, they could be in a little trinket box, any of those options. The next one is the fatal flaw, and this would be words and actions to send that tulpa into retirement. So again, it will be very similar to the activation code, and you want it to be very unique so you don't like accidentally kill them off or send them to retirement. And this is mostly optional, especially when it comes to like the higher self one, but the lower self one I think will need that. So some more ideas to think about when creating the personas. So I thought about it in the way of when you look up correspondences for a deity, and with this, some different ways you can go about it is you can look up your month's correspondence based upon your birthday. Maybe you're attracted to a specific season, so you can look up those days. Maybe you are attracted or have a strong familiarity or attraction to a specific deity, so maybe you want to look for their correspondence for guidance for yours. So after you kind of like come through those and like bring all those together, some other things to think about is instead of doing it that way, you can also do it based upon choosing 3 words that describe you, and you can do this for both the higher and lower self. So for me, I chose curious, creative, and compassionate for my higher self. I actually didn't do this for my lower self, but I might in the future. But I did a combination of that with the other 2 months. One of the months is what I'm attracted to, and one is the month of my birthday. And after going through all that information, I picked the things that I actually felt attracted to and I liked personally, and overall I thought that connects me more towards those correspondences, and these can be used in your rituals for reminders of your higher or lower self and to connect yourself with those personas better. So some examples would be flowers, herbs, crystals, nature spirits, trees, animals, element, incense, color, and deity. I also recommend what time of day you prefer, and this is mostly, I would say, when are you like most creative, when do you have most energy, and that's really it for like maybe the time of day. You can also do it based upon what those times of days represent, but I personally chose it based upon when I have the most energy. So you'll want to gather all that information and figure it out for your higher and lower self. And then part 2, I will demonstrate the ritual. So you'll want to get all that done, figure it out, and then we'll have a ritual for the lower and higher self when it comes to connecting with them. And then I will have a part 3, and that one will be more about me embodying that persona more through physical things. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and this overall idea, and I hope this helps you connect with your higher and lower selves better and to make yourself feel more whole. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Bye.